Hey, Julie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Julie Williamson, and I am one of the managing partners at Karrikins Group, which is a small boutique consultancy. We focus on helping leaders and their teams to align and deliver together on shared goals.
So let's talk about one of the big frustrations a lot of business owners have is around their team doesn't really understand the goals they have. But is it because the owner hasn't come up with theirs or communicated? Like what's the root cause of this?
Yeah, sometimes it can be that the owner hasn't maybe put pen to paper or really hasn't yet set a clear and easy to articulate goal. I find, though, often it's that the owner thinks that clarity is measured in volume. So the more often they say something or the louder they say something, the more people will understand it and align to it. But that's not how alignment works, as anyone who's tried to do that knows. I think you really have to engage people in productive conversations about what those goals are so that they can start to understand them in their own way. And instead, we just tell people. And we're always encouraging people at Karrikins Group, leaders, you have to talk, not tell. You actually have to invest in having these conversations with people, even if you think that as the business owner, you get to set the direction. Sure, you get to set it, but if you can't align people to it, you're not going to get them there.
Like give me an example, or maybe I'll give you an example and you tell me what you think.
Yeah.
One of our goals, or well, our North Star for agency mastery is to create a resource I wish I had when I was running the first agency.
Mhm.
And one of the major goal that we have for the year, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give the team the power to make decisions without coming to me, right? That's the ideal
Mhm.
situation, because
Yeah.
my team, I'm the dumbest person on the team. They're way smarter than me. And so I even told them, I said, look, we don't have a revenue goal this year. What we want to do is we're going to take half of our um, mastermind members and we want to double their EBITDA and
Mhm.
also reduce the amount of time they're working by 25%. If we hit that, then everything else will align. So
Mhm.
crush me, or like break that down of like, does that align with the team or what are we missing?
Yeah, it's a great firsthand example. Thank you for offering that up. And one of the questions I would have for you is, how would any of your team members articulate that goal? And they might get the numbers right, like we want to
Mhm.
double or reduce by 25%,
Mhm.
but do they really understand what that means to your clients and what the impact will be for them in terms of how they can build their own businesses? Like, how would they articulate that? And what's their passionate connection to those numbers as a goal, right? So you've got clarity in the target. What are the drivers behind that that help people to, when in those moments that they have every single day, that they can make discretionary choices about where to put their time, their energy, their passion? What's driving them to make those decisions in a way that supports those targets?
And you're talking about what's driving the members' goals
Yeah.
or the employees' goals?
Your employees, sorry, yeah, the people who are trying to deliver on that, right? So your employees that you're trying to get aligned to those shared outcomes, um, how do they understand your vision well enough that they can make good decisions on their own in those moments?
Well, I mean, I guess break it down to me a little bit more, just because maybe I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, because and maybe I need to maybe clarify our thing a little bit more, just so I can get on the same page, because I think maybe I'm the one confused. Obviously, it's probably always me. Um, but our team knows that the profitability of an agency is really everything.
Mhm.
But we also know that the freedom where the agency owner can pick and choose to do what they want is the most important. But we need to have profitability in order to have freedom. So what am I not understanding in what you asked?
I think maybe my disconnect, and I suspect it has more to do with me than you. So you seem like a very sharp and switched on person. So I appreciate that question and like digging into this. Is is your goals? It sounds like you have goals that are set for your members as well as for your employees. Is that
Well, so
correct?
our team members, their goals is to do what we need to get the members to a point where they're more profitable and they're have the freedom to pick and choose to do what they want and get rid of the stuff that they don't like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that freedom, like that articulation of how do we help our members to get to that place of freedom where they can make those choices. There are probably a lot of different ways that people who work for you believe they're contributing to that goal.
Yep.
Would that be fair to say?
Oh yeah,
And you've got
definitely.
people who
Most
have
definitely.
different jobs, they have different things they have to do. And so when we talk about aligning to a shared goal, it's really about how do we make sure that everybody in their individual roles, that they're consistently understanding the definition of what that freedom means. It means you've got to increase EBITDA, you've got to decrease. I forget what you said. You were working to decrease by 25%.
Yeah,
But
the amount of time they're working in the business rather than on the business.
there you go. Yeah, which by the way is one of my challenges. So I think we all have that. As we think about that, is there consistency in how people are contributing to that as a goal? And that is something that I think a lot of times we set goals, and because the goals are clear, we think the way to the goal is clear. But there's lots of different ways to get to that goal. And so getting that effort aligned is, I think, really important. I can give you another example if that might be helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I did work many years ago with the VA and the VA hospitals. One of the big challenges, this was probably 10 or 15 years ago, so it's old data, but one of their biggest challenges was fraud, waste, and abuse, right? So people file claims that are fraudulent, and then we end up paying it out. And so people who have earned those benefits, basically you're taking money out of their pocket, right? And none of us want that to happen to our service people. And so there's a lot of controls in place for fraud, waste, and abuse. Well, in the call center, there's a message that goes out, right? We have to control for fraud, waste, and abuse. Now you have two different call center people. One person says, oh, we have to control for fraud, waste, and abuse. So I'm going to ask 1,000 questions of this person on the phone with me to make sure that they absolutely deserve this benefit because I'm going to control for fraud, waste, and abuse. There's another call center person who knows the mission is to serve those who've served us, right? And so their goal is to get them into whatever service they need as quickly as possible. So they're not going to ask very many questions at all, right? They're both trying to serve the mission of the organization, but they're doing it in very different ways. And what that means is when somebody calls into the call center, depending on who they get an incredibly different experience. So again, you have the very clear goal, right? We need to reduce something by a certain number. We need to increase service time by a certain amount, all of these things. But when the two call center people don't have a shared understanding of what that means, they're going to behave very, very differently in that moment when they have discretionary decision-making about how to spend their time. Does that help?
It totally does. So how do you create that experience for the veteran calling in to be kind of somewhere in the middle, because one is on the veteran side, the other is on the VA side. So, and I think there's a lot of people that have that challenge because that's like kind of the account manager versus project manager, right? Like an account manager's job is to be on the client side. Project manager's job is to protect the agency. So how do you make sure that we come to a common ground?
Yeah, if you pull that out of like the big industrial example and into more of an intimate, like boutique consultancy type of example, I think that's great. The project manager and the account manager, right? They're trying to figure out how to be in service in different ways with the shared goals of making sure that the agency is able to be successful, both from a revenue or profit perspective and a quality perspective, and also that the client's needs are met, right? And balancing that can be really tricky. One of the things that we often are working with ourselves between is a client may only have a certain amount of budget that they can spend And we love the work that we do, and we want to do as much of it as possible with them. But we have to be in service both to the needs of Karrikins Group and the needs of the client, and be good stewards of the resources of both of those. And that tension, and how any of our consultants make decisions when they're faced with that tension, is where we spend a lot of time aligning within our own organization to that idea of shared goals.
So going back to your VA example, what did they do? Because obviously there are two different, kind of goals. One is get rid of fraud, and the other is to get you the benefit you need as quick as possible. So what happened?
Well, I think I just want to acknowledge that the VA is a very large and complex organization. And again, this work was done a long time ago with a very specific call center. But part of it was helping the call center people to understand the challenge that fraud, waste, and abuse was introducing. At the time, it was about a $3 billion problem. And also understand the importance of helping the person who they're on the phone with to understand why they're asking the questions that they're asking, right? And engaging in different types of conversations with those people who were calling in. I'm not going to claim that there was a silver bullet for making sure that services provided by the VA are handled exactly right all the time, because it's just too big and complex of an environment. But I do think that the managers who came in and really got those call center people engaged in a different way in what that goal was around fraud, waste, and abuse, they were able to see them turn the corner on their satisfaction scores, which was how the call center was measured at that time. So it's giving people more than just a number to hit, right? Giving people more than just a target or a goal that can be measured, but how do they also internalize that goal and understand it in a different way? And that takes time.
Does it also go with making sure you get I know in my team, and especially my team now, and even in the team and the agency I had toward the end, I found people that believed in the beliefs I believed in. Like, we shared core values, and I didn't have to manage them. They managed themselves. I basically literally said, here's the hill we're going to take. Take it. Like, go figure out how to take it. And I found that always worked, because as a leader, you don't always know exactly what we want, but you want to have it open for your team to bring up amazing ideas that you may not even have thought about. Like, I know that's happened with our team when we've created, smaller masterminds for people to, that are trying to get over the million mark, but maybe they didn't qualify for the certain mastermind that we had. So what do you say with that?
I love that you're able to do that, by the way. Like, that idea of let's get the right people in the room and just know that we're all going to go take that hill. I think where that gets challenged is when you start to scale. So when you start to get to 20 people or 30 people, and you get more and more degrees of separation from that center where everybody just knows this is what we're doing. And of course, we know that's the next hill to take. And so as a leader, I think it's really important to continue to make the time and the investment in talking with your people about what that hill represents, right? And what it means to take the hill successfully. A great example for this, by the way, which a lot of people really struggle with, is revenue and profit, right? The difference between revenue and profit. So making money doesn't look the same in different situations. When you have a team of 5 people, that can be pretty clear, and we can all understand that pretty well. When you have a team of 50 people, that can look very different, right? And the way that you help people to understand that and to know how to, again, make those discretionary decisions so that they're moving in the right direction. Sometimes you do want to focus on revenue. Other times you're focused on profit. But making that decision in a way that is sound in terms of the business and the shared goals that you all have can be really tricky as you scale. So I think that idea of a small team being able to move really quickly after going after the next hill is awesome. And it means that you do a great job, by the way, of getting the right people, which is the first rule, right, of growth, get the right people. I think for leaders who are trying to scale their businesses, sometimes that can be an area that gets neglected.
Well, don't you think too, if you hire the right people, I look at it in a number of different stages, right? Like, you're trying to get the right people for, under 10 people, and they can all kind of report to you and maybe one other person. But when you do start scaling, my major focus, like when we were building, we had a little over 100, and our main focus was how do we build better leaders, like
Mhm.
individually in each department. And then each department head would, how do you build a better leader in your directors? And those directors, how do you build better leaders in those managers, in order to make sure we were all rowing in the same direction, versus like row here and then like you're just spinning around or you're sinking the damn canoe.
Yeah, I love that for you. And I think that is something that actually a lot of smaller companies really struggle with, is investing in building leaders instead of investing in building technical disciplines. So a lot of times you feel like, well, we've got more volume of work to do, so we need more people to do the work. And so you invest there. But you really do, as you grow an agency or grow a consultancy, I think need to invest in building leaders as much as you invest in building those technical skills.
What are some things that, or like, what's one thing that you've found in the past couple of years that help companies build better leaders?
Yeah. I think one of the things that we do a lot in our work is encourage people to talk about what we call trade-offs. Leaders often don't have the vocabulary to even see or understand the trade-offs that they're making just by default. Because a lot of times we just kind of we get deeply habituated as individuals and as teams around how we make decisions when faced with a trade-off. So I don't know, like in life, a trade-off might be pizza or salad, right? In business, it might be revenue or profit, or it might be quarterly goals versus annual goals, right? Short-term, long-term. It might be operational excellence versus innovation and, kind of pushing into new areas. So reliability and predictability versus variability and risk. As leaders, it's really important, I think, to help your up and coming leaders to understand that they're making trade-offs with every decision that they make. And how do they give voice to those trade-offs and have a conversation with you about them, rather than just assuming, letting that deeply habituated kind of action take place. And when you start to really talk honestly about the trade-offs that are being made, it's amazing what you uncover in the business. So I would say to anyone out there who's working to build their leaders and build that next generation, talk with them about what they think their trade-offs are, because it might not be the same as what you think the trade-off is.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. No, I really do like that. Well, this has been amazing, Julie. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
I would just say to anybody who's really out there, doing the work to grow their agency and is feeling passionate and committed to the quality of the work that they do. And also, as I share the sentiment as a small business owner, the struggle of it, right? And the challenge of it is, I really believe in this concept that we call intentional optimism, which is staying really pragmatic about the challenge, but also optimistic about the future. I'm sure that all of your listeners are doing amazing things. And if you stick with it and you hang in there, good things will happen.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, share it out, like it, comment. And until next time, have a swank day. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out. Click on the link. I'll see you soon.